Presentation. Slide, Research and Entrepreneurial Development Immersion. Logo, REDI, Research and Entrepreneurial Development Immersion. Logo, NIH. Logo, United States Department of Health and Human Services. Image, a woman discusses something with others at a meeting table.
Now we'll be covering a bit more about another aspect of the REDI program. I want to thank you to everyone who's joined us to learn more about the Research and Entrepreneurial Development Immersion. It's a very intense and integrated program designed to cover different aspects in supporting entrepreneurship. And so we appreciate your time here with us today.
Slide, agenda, a bullet point list. Image, the icon bar of a video call. Icon in the center right is highlighted. It reads Q&A.
Just a quick overview. We'll do an overview of the REDI opportunities, dive deeper into a specific program, and then we'll have some moderated Q&A. So feel free, don't be shy, send us all of your questions. We are also offering opportunities for you to meet with Saroj one-on-one if you have a very specific question that is very unique to your organization.
Slide, featured speakers, 2 profile pictures.
And our featured speaker is Dr. Saroj Regmi. He is the program officer at OSEP, which is the Office of Strategic Extramural Programs at the National Institute on Aging, NIH. I will be your moderator for today.
Text, Monique Larocque, MPH. Senior Vice President, Ogilvy, FKH, Moderator.
With that, Saroj, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Video feed in upper right. Speaker, Saroj Regmi.
Thank you very much, Monique. And so there will be a lot of overlap between content here for folks that join later. So, I will preface this by saying that, a lot of the content, there will be overlap. But I'm very excited to talk about the R25 program. This portion of the presentation will focus on program that is designed towards, entrepreneurial training of early stage, investigators. This includes PhD students, postdocs, junior faculty, as well as undergraduate students. Can you move to the next slide?
Slide, a faculty job as an alternative career path. A flowchart that described the influx of biology PhD students and the jobs that they end up in after so many years.
Yeah, so if you were on that earlier presentation, you saw this slide. This chart from ASCD and Compass clearly shows the trajectory of PhD students. I mean, there are 86,000 biology PhD students, and only around 29,000 of them end up being tenured and tenure track faculty position. We also have to think about international PhD students and postdocs that come in from other countries to do their postdocs here. So only between 15 to 20, I think 20 to 30% of PhD postdoc trainees end up being faculties, the tenure track faculties in the US. So this is not, the current academic training at the PhD level as well as the postdoc level does not reflect this. So right now it's really important for us to note that faculty job is an alternative career path. That is not the path of the majority.
Slide, NIH is aware of these issues.
So, this was recognized by the NIH. NIH created a biomedical research workforce working group. This was led by former Princeton president, Dr. Shirley Tilghman, and also former NIH Deputy Director for Extramural Research, Dr. Sally Rocky. And they made a number of recommendations to, sort of better align the training program with, with this reality of the fact that majority of the trainees don't end up being faculty. So, there were a couple of recommendations. Among them, first was align training with the current job market. So, being able to offer various training avenues beyond, traditional, academic training programs. Second, supplement training programs. So, create supplements and training programs to provide that additional training opportunities. And third is to be able to leverage that small business, innovation research, SBIR and STTR programs, leveraging those to create, internships and other training avenues for, biomedical trainees.
Slide, various programs have been established. Logos and program titles.
In line with this, various programs have been established within the NIH as well as outside. There have been some really excellent programs outside. And, there have also been programs within the NIH. And so one of the pioneer programs, I would say, has been the SHIFT program. This was a program which allowed, early career scientists to work at a startup as PIs. This program was unfortunately discontinued, but at the NIA, we found that this program was quite helpful in promoting entrepreneurship. We had, a really remarkable success story of an individual who participated and was able to launch a startup and really excel. So given this success of SHIFT, we were thinking about, the need for the trainees, and we wanted to think about what they needed and to think about the requirements. So we conducted a lot of interviews. We did a lot of boot camps, and we basically learned from various institutions and programs about entrepreneurship focused programs. And so based on these interviews, we learned a couple of things, and that, I'll highlight in the next slide. Next slide, please.
Slide. What makes a good program?
So what makes a good program? So there are three things that we learned. First was that, immersive experiences and internships are very useful. Learning by doing is great. Being exposed to internships and workshops mean that, they're actually, doing things and they understand entrepreneurship better. The second thing is that trainees at different stages have different needs. So graduate students versus senior postdocs, if you think about their career trajectory and their needs, they may be quite different. There might also be differences in terms of, a postdoc who's working in a really, fundamental research lab, doing, basic research versus someone who's working in a really, translational science. So, there might be different needs in terms of their training as well. And also, there are right now a lot of various career opportunities available to PhD students and postdocs in the life sciences. Someone might be interested in IP, someone might be interested in journalism. And so, we need to think about a wide training program that caters to this need as well. So to summarize everything, what we learned is that one size does not fit all. And if you go to the next slide.
Slide. The REDI umbrella. Text. Broad definition of entrepreneurship.
So we created, a suite of programs that we call REDI, Research and Entrepreneurial Development Immersion Programs. And so this is an umbrella, under the REDI umbrella, there are, various programs that, we hope will promote entrepreneurship to our trainings. And so, what we want you to know is that, definition of entrepreneurship is really broad here. It does not have to be startups only. We encourage, we encourage startup, but for our training programs, we encourage you to consider a wide range of career options, such as IP, regulatory affairs, science communication, science policy, consulting, drug discovery, startups, and things like that.
Slide. REDI Award opportunities.
And so the REDI Award opportunities, there are basically three different programs, utilizing four different grant mechanisms. So the first one is a mentored entrepreneurial career development award. This is a KO1. This is for an individual who's a postdoc, who's interested in entrepreneurial training. The REDI Entrepreneurship Enhancement Award. This is for course development. That will be the focus of the talk right now. And there's the Entrepreneurial Small Business Transition Award, which is an SBIR, CTR award that I also talked about.
Slide. The REDI umbrella. A table.
So, this is the REDI umbrella, four different funding mechanisms. For the aficionados, the first one is a KO1. This is for, postdocs. Again, the application is due November 15th. You get $90,000 in salary and $50,000 per year in program-related expense for entrepreneurship training. This affords you, protected time to pursue entrepreneurship training while you're a postdoc. The second one would be the focus of the talk right now, which is, $250,000, which gives you $250,000 per year in direct. Letter of intent is due October 15th, and it provides entrepreneurship training for postdocs, PhD students, and as well as undergrads and junior faculty. The last two awards are SBIR and STTR awards. They're due February 17th. They provide $400,000 for a phase one and a $2 million for a fast track. And these two awards are for small businesses to hire early career scientists as PIs, meaning principal investigators, or PDs, meaning program directors.
Slide. REDI R25.
So let's focus on the R25. And so let's look at the purpose of the R25. So per the funding opportunity announcement, the purpose is to promote the development of entrepreneurial education programs to broaden the skill set of graduate students and postdocs in the field relevant to the mission of the NIA. Like I alluded to earlier, with the REDI umbrella, what we mean by entrepreneurial training is quite broad. So we're really interested in, providing additional training avenues for PhD students and postdocs. Undergraduate students are also allowed to apply, but that's the goal. So in terms of requisites, we're looking at courses and workshops with a broad scope, and you can you can think about your strengths and think about what would be ideal from your institution. So it could be, product development, commercialization, scientific communication, tech transfer, science policy, drug development, regulatory affairs, or it could be a couple of those things as well. What we really require is a diversity recruitment plan. We want to make sure that you are thinking about how you're going to, ensure that there will be diverse individuals participating in your R25. In terms of eligibility, we've kept it very broad. So educational institutions are allowed, nonprofits are allowed, for-profits are allowed, and even state governments are allowed to apply. So we want to make sure that everybody could look at their strengths and be able to offer a strong R25 for their particular audience and need. What we encourage is that you partner with existing NIH-funded and federally funded resources and programs, such as the NIH Proof of Concept Network, the NIH Center for Accelerated Innovations, NCAI. There are these REACH hubs, the NIGMS IDEA Regional Tech Transfer Accelerator hubs. If you've worked with the NSF Corps, the NCATS Clinical and Translational Science Awards. I think if you can work with them, I think that is highly encouraged. And what we think, in terms of R25 is that we think it's the first part of that, REDI umbrella. So we anticipate that, some of the K1 awardees might even want to tap into some of their R25s if they are available to them. Yes.
Slide, REDI R25.
So this funding opportunity will support, creative educational activities with a primary focus on courses for skills development. So, that's the primary goal here is that, we're developing entrepreneurial skills. So there will be coursework, immersive coursework, obviously, for skills development. This is intended, the intended target are graduate students and postdocs, but this can also be offered to faculty and undergraduates as appropriate. And we encourage applicants to consider collaborations involving both scientific and business department, as well as consider collaborations with affiliated or local institutions, such as MSIs, whenever appropriate.
Slide, eligibility.
In terms of eligibility, higher education institutions are eligible. Nonprofits, other than institutions of higher education, are eligible. So if there are, societies, that work within the mission space of NIA, they remain eligible. For-profit organizations are eligible. Government, state governments are eligible. If you're a foreign institution, unfortunately, you're not eligible for the R25.
Slide, REDI R25.
So again, this R25 is awarded up to 5 years. We allow $250,000 in direct costs. And the letter of intent is due October 15th, just so that we have an idea on what kind of applications we're getting. It is not mandatory. The application deadline actually is 15th of November, 2022. So the review criteria is as follows. We look at the significance, whether the program provides opportunities to mentees for a career in entrepreneurship. Again, with REDI, the idea of entrepreneurship was really broad. It looks at the investigator, whether the personnel expertise will increase participants' entrepreneurial skill set. Innovation, is the program innovative, and whether it's reaching the targeted audience. And approach, does the program clearly state its goal, and are the evaluation plans appropriate? Finally, will the scientific and educational programs of the program contribute to the goals? I think those are really important. Monique, do we want to go to Q&A, or do we want to do this?
Slide, tips for a successful application.
Thank you for pausing. I just wanted to offer the opportunity for folks to ask some questions. We're willing to take a few now or wait till the end. And Saroj, I definitely appreciate the additional specificity that you're providing for this particular funding opportunity. I know this is uniquely different from the other two. I just wanted to flag, since there may be some new people who weren't here earlier, just the difference. If you could note, if they didn't hear the earlier presentation, what should they know briefly about K1 and SBIR-CTR?
So sorry, I lost you for a bit. Were you asking me a particular question?
Yes. If for folks who are newly joining at this time, can you just say, why should they consider this one versus K1 or SBIR-CTR?
Great question.
Audiences are different. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you, Monique, for that. So, in terms of the REDI pipeline, we've thought about, 3 different programs, like I alluded to earlier, utilizing different grant mechanisms. So, we think of them as like this pipeline building programs towards entrepreneurship. So if you are someone who's a grad student, postdoc, or an undergrad or junior faculty that is trying to learn about entrepreneurship, you want to do a little coursework, R25 is the way to go. And if you're an educational institution, you think about offering such R25. Now, if you're a postdoc, who is doing, working in the bench and, has 2 years of postdoctoral experience, is thinking more about, entrepreneurship, then there's the KO1. That is nifty because you get salary to continue doing your research that you're doing. And you also get $50,000 for, workshop, business school courses, and things like that. KO1 is an individual award. So this will be awarded to an individual, a postdoc, as opposed to R25, which is awarded to an educational institution or, for-profit, nonprofit institution. It's an institution level award. And finally, there's the SBR SCTR. So if you're ready to make the plunge, work at a startup, then the SBR SCTR award is there for you. So we kind of think of, R25 being that first piece, K1 being the second piece, and SBR SCTR being the final piece. I mean, of course, there might be some postdocs that might benefit from taking that R25 as part of their protected time as well. And that, that is allowed as well. But the end goal here is that, the SBR SCTR piece is for people that are really ready, to launch their own business and work on entrepreneurship.
Thank you. And we have a couple of questions that came in as you were talking. Person wants to know whether 501c6 associations are eligible.
For the R25, they are. For SBR, for KO1s, you have to be a postdoc at an educational institution. For SBR SCTR, I think you have to be a for-profit business in the US.
Yeah, thank you. And you mentioned the LOIs as part of the deadlines. Are they required to submit an LOI, or is that an optional submission?
So LOIs help us as we're thinking about reviewers. Like I said earlier, I think a major difference for REDI is that all of the reviews will be done at the NIA. So if you're familiar with the review process, majority of the review is done by the central office within the NIH called Center for Scientific Review. And for these REDI programs, we wanted to have a closer look and also look at the kind of applications we get and be able to furnish a review panel per the kind of applications we get. So it's often helpful for us as we think about reviewers.
And do you have guidance for what people should cover in their LOI? How long should it be? How specific should it be?
Yeah, so a one pager, is sufficient as long as they talk about what their research plan is, and they, also go briefly into their own background and how that program is a good fit.
Perfect. And for the R25, how important is it to have API with NIA funding lineage?
We do not require it. Given that, these R25s are so different from any other R25 programs, I think what is more important is that, highlighting the fact that you are, well poised to provide entrepreneurial training. You have a good way of ensuring that you will get trainees into your program. You have a good way of ensuring that there's going to be a diverse cohort, and you have a good way of, ensuring that, they will be trained appropriately for, the kind of, entrepreneurial training that you're providing. And that's very important.
Thank you. And then SBR, CTR have generally, not part of REDI, have rolling deadlines. Do any of the REDI programs have rolling deadlines?
There's only one deadline per year. So for the R25 as well as the KO1, these are, program announcement with a set aside. These, are, I think these will be launched for the next 2 to 3 years. The deadline for them is November 15th this year, but, starting next year, they will be October 15th-ish. For the SBR SCTR, it has one deadline. This is February 17th, 2023.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Would the R25 be appropriate for the development of an entrepreneurship program that includes incubators if they want to help their students launch startups at the university?
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Thank you.
As long as it's, I will say it has to be within the mission space of the NIA. So you would have to have that, there has to be a component that, talks about the aging and Alzheimer's aspect, obviously, but yes.
Perfect. With that, we will listen to some of your tips, and then folks, please feel free to send in more questions. We'll do another pause for Q&A.
Thank you, Mike.
Slide, developing your first draft. Email, niasmallbusiness@mail.nih.gov.
Again, I think, if you're thinking about developing your first draft, email us, contact us at least 1 month before the due date, so that we can provide feedback. We can discuss, whether you're eligible, whether it's a good fit. And if you're confused about, these 3 different funding vehicles, we can absolutely help you figure out the right fit.
Slide, think about the scientific fit.
So, it is really important, given that we're a National Institute on Aging, that you think about the scientific fit as well. So, whatever program you propose has to, be within the mission space of the NIA. So if you are thinking about, an aging related project, thinking about Alzheimer's related project, those would be good fits. And so there are 4 research divisions within the National Institute on Aging. There's the Division of Aging Biology that, looks at preventative and interventional strategies to increase resilience and extend healthy aging. There's the Division of Behavioral and Social Research that, looks at processes of aging at both individual as well as societal levels. There's the Division of Geriatrics and Clinical Gerontology that looks at, health and disease in older adults and research on aging over human lifespan, as well as, health outcomes. And there's the Division of Neuroscience that looks at, neural and behavioral processes associated with the aging brain. Dementia, in particular Alzheimer's disease, is one of the highest priorities. And so you need to think about the scientific fit as you're thinking about your application. So for the R25, you would want to have a component that caters to these research divisions.
Slide, review NIH reporter. Image, a section of a website. Text, NIH report reporter. Quick search, search reporter.
The other thing to think about is the NIH reporter. So, we have the R25 is in its 2nd year now. So you can look at some of the things that have been funded. You can do a quick search on the reporter and, type in the funding opportunity announcement from last year's FOA number and see the successful applications. You will get a brief glimpse of what kind of things we funded, and that might give you an idea of kind of things that you can do.
Slide, SF424 application guide. Image of web browser, a search bar. Text, use Control F keyboard search on this document. That's what I do.
So the other, nifty trick is the SF424 application guide. I will highlight that the SF424 application guide will be different for KO1 versus SPR versus R25. But this is a great resource. You should use this guide if you have any questions about the submission. The great thing is, it's a PDF that's searchable, so you'll be able to do a keyword search on the document and clearly understand all the questions. And also annotated application forms are available, which lays out the application, how the application form looks like and what each of the question means. So we provided a link to that as well.
Slide, responsible conduct and research requirement.
So, responsible conduct in research requirement. This is a great, you need to think about responsible conduct and research requirement. If you're doing an R25, NIH requires that all of the, R25s have to have a responsible conduct and research requirement. So you need to, clearly check this notice out and see, how you can provide that, because that will have to be a component of that R25.
Slide, schedule a one-on-one, a calendar, a QR code.
Yeah, so, thank you very much. I hope I've been able to give you a really high-level overview of the REDI programs and that we'll consider applying. This is a new program, so really enthusiastic about creative applications. And I think that is why we've tried not to be overtly prescriptive in our FOAs. We're keeping it, really broad so that we get the best ideas from you guys and identify really good, innovative applications. So if you would like to discuss your individual projects, feel free to reach out to, NIA small business at mail.nih.gov. And then we could think about, Calendly as well for a one-on-one. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And I'll just note that the link to Calendly, you can access it by using the QR code on the screen. We'll put that right back. And then you can also look at your chat. We have a link to it. So I would encourage you to do 2 things. One, if you do want to meet one-on-one, please go ahead and book an appointment now. And the second thing is, if you would please use the feedback form so that you can share any insights with us. We would love to know, was this helpful? What additional information you need? what are some of the challenges, that you may have that would prevent you from applying. We want to help overcome those. And also, if you have any additional questions, we'll pause for a few minutes. I know that we answered several earlier, but we are open to taking additional questions if you have them. And we'll just hold for a second to see if any new ones come up. So, Saroj, one question that we have is whether folks, I know you talked about the program offices at NIA, whether folks need to identify one of the 4 specific research areas, or can the aging research components address 2 or more of these areas?
They don't have to, as long as, one of these, I mean, my goal was to, show the kind of, research division within NIA, but as long as you can furnish something that works within the mission space of NIA, I think you're good.
Perfect. And there was someone who was listening to you on KO1. How do you define suitability of an SPR mentor with mentorship entrepreneurship experience?
So suitability of an entrepreneurial mentor would be someone who has a track record of mentoring people that have gone on to entrepreneurship related careers that are available on a regular basis and things like that. I mean, it would be similar to any other mentor, whether they're there for you when you need them, whether they have the right background and right skill set to train you for what you seek training for, and whether they've done it in the past successfully.
Thank you. And for REDI R25, they're universities who are interested in programs that help support the pipeline with high school students. There are also some that have specifically focused on undergraduate. Can you speak to what is allowable with R25?
So with the R25, our goal actually is, we're focused more on the PhD students and postdocs. They can include high school students and undergraduates, but the emphasis here is on PhD students and postdocs.
And what about students and master's programs?
Yeah, I mean, they remain eligible as well.
Thank you. Can you explain more about the expectations for project period 1? It notes they're referring to a particular comment where it said participants are not required in project period 1 if the project period 1 is devoted to the development and implementation.
Where can I see it?
Would say, Ms. Jordan, if you could send us an email with what you're seeing so that we can.
I'm happy to answer that.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Speaker, Todd Hyam.
So I think Saroj, what they're referring to is the first year of the R25 can be focused on the development of the course, whereas the following years of the R25, you would have to actually implement and have participants, students in the courses. So it allows for 1 year of development efforts before actually offering.
Yeah, if it is the R25, then yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And for those listening, that statement was under the section labeled participants. All right. Those are the questions that we have so far. Saroj, just would welcome an opportunity for you to share a couple of words of wisdom as you close out. And if you do have additional questions, we can take 1 or 2 more.
Slide, reach out, email, saroj.regmi@nih.gov, a QR code, logo, REDI, Research and Entrepreneurial Development Immersion.
And also, just a reminder, use this QR code to stay in touch with us. Also, it has the link to our website, our social channels. You'll be able to see a variety of ways to stay in touch with us on that QR code. All right, so Saroj, back to you.
Yeah, so this is sort of a new territory for us. So we're really excited to see great ideas from you in terms of applications. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. We're more than happy to discuss the right fit, discuss eligibility and things like that. And if you have one-page specific aims page, we can even take it a step further and discuss the right avenue in terms of the funding opportunity. But we're very excited about this, and we hope you'll consider submitting an application and definitely think about it early. Think about all the requirements, making sure you're eligible. You've done all the registrations, submitted all the requirements, and had that conversation with collaborators and partners as you're thinking about an R25. I think these become important. So start early and think about all of these.
Thank you. And don't be afraid to schedule one-on-one or reach out. I think we always offer, and it is a genuine one. We
Absolutely.
want you to be, in a good position to understand the FOAs as well, the funding opportunities and these programs overall. And we know that sometimes it may need a few more conversations to get to that point. So please feel free to reach out to us, and we are glad to help you when you are in a good place and you have good ideas and folks to either mentor or help support, or if you have a new research idea. Those are things we want to see come to fruition, and we're hoping to help you with that. So please feel free to reach out. We want to thank you for your time and taking the time and energy to look at this opportunity. We hope that it will help you, and we are here to help whenever you're ready. All right, thank you everyone for joining.
Thank you.